Alright, now it's been a minute since I've checked out a keyboard because this channel is slowly becoming, well, I guess it currently is an IEM for gaming channel these days. I was almost a mic channel, thank goodness that didn't happen. But anyway, I was recently sent a keyboard to check out. This is the Epomaker EK68, and it's supposed to be a really good stock keyboard, and from the testing that I've had already, it is pretty good. Let's talk about it. Yeah, great, I gotta go pick it up because I gotta tell you guys, first of all, that, disclaimer, this was sent out for me for review, but this won't affect my review in any way, shape, or form. Everything you're gonna hear here is my own personal opinion. So, that being said, now, let's get started. Alright, let's not get too into the box because it's just a box, so let's just crack it open and we'll find our keyboard, a cable, extra color accent keycaps, 3 extra switches, a switch and keycap puller, and a manual. Alright, let's get some basics out of the way. So this keyboard is mostly plastic and it's a 65% as you can tell here, and it has a volume knob which is actually made of metal. The design overall is very plain with very few details except for like maybe on the side a bit and as well as the back, where there's the USB-C port as well as the mode switches for Windows and Mac, and a mode switch for wireless Bluetooth and wireless with a dongle, which by the way is this little thing right here which you can tuck away if you're not using it. Anyway, at the bottom we have some decently sized rubber feet as well as some angle adjustments which are 2-step. You can like set it to their maximum height or set it down to the little lower one, so you can have like a slightly lower height. Now the switches on this board are Epomaker's Flamingo switch, which as you can see here is a box style switch that actually has been factory lubed, which we'll get more into later. But if you don't like the switch, this board is hot swappable with 5-pin holes and a recessed LED, so you shouldn't have any compatibility issues with most standard switches out there. They are south facing, so this might be a problem with some novelty keycaps, but speaking of the keycaps it comes with are nice double shot PBT keycaps, which are surprisingly pretty well made. And of course this keyboard is RGB lit in case you want to use like RGB keycaps or whatnot, but you know, even then with the keycaps it has that don't have like the backlighting, I still think it looks pretty nice, and it's always nice to have the option. I had to get my pet bird because he was chirping and really lonely or something. I don't know. He's screeching a lot. Anyway, while he's here, I guess we'll talk about the keyboard. So the idea of this keyboard is that it's supposed to be very affordable and very good stock. So this is actually a plasticky build keyboard, which is fine. I believe it is one of those rebrands or like rebadging of a keyboard, but the other one was actually made of metal. By turning it into plastic, they managed to make it cheaper, so this is running at $90. But at $90, you're getting quite a lot. It is a gasket-mounted keyboard, which is kind of interesting because, you know, plastic sometimes already has some flex to it, but in this case, now they've added it more by, you know, being gasket-mounted. Now, this keyboard is also wired and wireless, so you're going to get like wired mode as well as dual wireless, so you can have like the USB dongle for like the 2.4 gigahertz wireless connection, and you can also have Bluetooth connection for it, which yes can be used to game if you're into like gaming wirelessly, or if you just want the option of wireless gaming. I definitely use the 2.4 gigahertz dongle over Bluetooth because the latency is a lot better and you won't have to deal with like that kind of lag when you're in like a tense situation. Even then, I still prefer to use my keyboards wired, but you know, the option of going wireless every now and then is kind of nice, so I can like kick back, and I didn't really notice any latency from like 3 meters away, so that's definitely playable. But you know, your mileage may vary a bit if you decide to sit further back or if there's more obstacles in the way between you and the USB dongle. Now, as for other keyboard features, it can also support Mac or PC depending on like how you set the switch, because there is a switch in the back for those modes. It is a hot swap board, as you have already seen, so you can like, change out your switches if in case you want to. But even then, the factory switches are really good, being already like lubed, including the spring, so you don't get spring ping out of them, which is like a criticism I've had for like past keyboards that have had factory lubed switches, where they just kind of lube the switch around the housing but not the spring, leading to spring ping. And of course, you know, typical with very popular keyboards that are 65 or even like 75% these days is it has a knob, and I do believe this is a metal knob, and you know, you can also remove it and switch out the knob in case you want to, which is kind of nice. Though the knob design is sort of a shallowish kind of design, so there are limitations to that. More popular knob designs, usually they go a little bit further deeper in, and this hole doesn't really support it, but you know, if you're crafty, I guess you can drill a hole because the case is plastic. Now anyway, that's all fine and dandy and stuff, so let's get a sound test out of this guy, because for a stock board, it is really good. Alright, now as you can hear from the sound test, this is, once again, a very good stock board, but I do have some gripes with it, such as like the space bars and basically any of the stabilized keys I wasn't quite satisfied with, and the sound, while it is good, it's not quite to my liking, so we're gonna take this board apart and we're gonna upgrade it. Alright, first of all, we'll have to take off the keycaps as well as the key switches, and then of course, due to the knob design, we do have to remove the knob, and then it comes to the worst part, which is opening the plastic case of this board, which is held in together with plastic tabs. This board is not very friendly for modding. It's very hard to open, and even then I still had to be very careful not to try to damage anything, but oh man, it was difficult. On the bright side, at least I know the board is very well built, but after a lot of effort I finally got it open and we can start taking a look inside. So if we lift up the top plate, we'll find that the PCB is connected to it and there are screws adhering it together, and there are some cables we gotta disconnect from the bottom of the PCB so we can access and take a look at everything else. For example, the foam at the bottom of the case is actually a very high quality foam. I do believe this is a pour-on foam. Now if you look at the bottom of the case, it's pretty empty aside from like the PCB for like the USB connection and switches. There's the battery as well as a rotary encoder. And if we look around the edge of the board, we'll find the pour-on strips for the gasket mounting. Now if we look at the top plate, we'll find that the stabilizers are clip-on stabs, but these are actually fairly nicely built clip-on stabs. Anyway, the PCB is held onto the top plate by several screws which we can remove, and by removing them we will find there is actually foam in between them, both of which are precisely cut for all the switches and the switch holes. If we look at the PCB itself, it is using a lot of Kale hot swap switches, which is pretty normal these days, and as for the top plate itself, it is just a pretty simple steel, top plate. Now with everything apart, we're going to do some modding which we're going to be pretty minimal with. The stabs are pre-lubed, but they aren't clipped, so we're going to clip them and then re-lube them with dielectric grease for better dampening, and because it's easily available. And speaking of which, we're also going to tape mod it, while also making sure that the tape doesn't get in the way of any of the cable connections, and especially the little middle one, which we had to make a little cutout for. And honestly, that's it. That's basically all the modding I think this keyboard really needs, and luckily for you guys, these mods are very easily accessible. You can basically get these materials anywhere, but good luck opening the keyboard. Anyway, with everything put together, let's finally get a new sound test in. Yep. Once again, very minimal mods. This is a very good board. Granted, the minimal mods were hard to do because, you know, the case was not easy to open. But anyway, what do I think about the board overall? Considering that it is coming at stock, it comes with all this, being like dual wireless with a wired mode, Windows, Mac, it doesn't matter which one you use. Build of it's like, you know, it's whatever because it is plastic, but the sound of it's still pretty good even when I didn't do mods on it. Let's see, hot swap, that's good. The factory switches are really good for what they are. And I didn't feel a need to change them at all. The keycaps are pretty good, being PBT and double shot. I mean, if you don't like the color, then I can understand changing them. But me, who likes yellow and black, and basically this color scheme, this is perfect. It's really hard to go wrong with this board. This board is packing quite a lot. Also, right, it's also gasket mounted, which, you know, is a trend right now and is really popular. It's a really good board. It's hard to go wrong. It's a great starter board, and for some people who are aren't too into keyboards and just want a really good board that's like a 65, it might be your end game already. It's got everything you need from the start. And if you want to upgrade it, there aren't too many upgrades you really realistically need to do. And if you do, yeah, it's sort of difficult to get in. I mean, it's kind of very difficult to get in, but once you do, honestly, you just gotta tape mod and clip and relube the stabs. You know, with those upgrades, it's basically all you need. If you want to change the switches, go ahead if you want to go a little bit further. But for what it is and what you get, you don't need to change much. And even then, if you don't want to change anything, you're basically good to go. Though I still would at least, you know, relube the stabilizers. That was actually something that I would think that anyone should do at the very least if they get this board, but that's just me because I like my stabilizers very well lubed, and that's kind of why, you know, I like using dielectric grease. Fairly thick and gives me that nice sound. very satisfied with what it is, and I kind of wish this was like something I had when I was looking for my first board. I mean, hold on, give me a second. Let me get my main board right now, which is my end game. This is my end game board. It's very similar, but it is completely made of metal. This is the Space 65 Cyber Voyager. And, like, you know, it's, of course, in the color scheme I love. But if I had this board, I'd be hard-pressed to want to upgrade if I didn't have a lot of money on me. But me, at the time, when I got this, I was, I had saved quite a bit. And, I just like yellow, okay? Actually, you know, I still would have bought this board regardless if I had this. But, you know, that's just me. I like yellow. Anyway, guys, that's pretty much all I have for today for this board. So if you do want to buy it, I'll have a link in the description in case you want to purchase it, you know, just from there. Check out all the details in case I missed any of them. Pretty sure I tackled all of them. And, you know, once again, it's a bang for your buck. Board's got everything. I do believe it comes in like 1 or 2 other colors. I think at least 1 other color, which is this purplish kind of color looking thing. But, you know, if you're like me and you like yellows and grays, you can just get this board. And if you don't like yellows, you can just get this board as it is, because, you know, it is gray, and then just buy different keycaps to put onto it. So yeah, that's all I have for today, guys. So link down there, you know how it goes. See you guys later.